Hi everyone, welcome back to Create with Ann. We're still working on our shepherd. We now have his feet, his sandals cleared back, and I did something that I hardly ever do. I never say never, but I hardly ever do. I went ahead and painted that. It's still wet. I did it just a few minutes ago, and we're going to go ahead and clear it back because I want you to see I want you to see how we can turn a negative, or possible negative, into a positive. Like I said, I did this just a few minutes ago, and you can clearly see how difficult it is to clean it back already. Once again, it's a darker color, so I don't know why they seem to be harder to clean back, but they are. Thank goodness it's not navy blue, because that would be really hard. But I did this not 5 minutes ago. And you can see already that it's taking quite a bit of paint thinner. And some pretty good elbow grease to rub it back. I decided to go ahead and put the dark color on here, and I'll show you in a minute what I'm going to do with it. But I decided, let's make it look like he's standing on a rock. Shall we? And because we don't want them all standing in dirt, we don't want them all standing in straw. We need a little variety. I don't like pieces where, especially, and I think they do this in the nativity scene a lot, they make everybody uniform, everybody the same, everybody standing in a manger on hay. But I'm sure somebody stood outside the manger, and I'm sure there were rocks outside the manger where they stood. And so, what would be so terribly wrong if someone's standing on a rock outside of the manger to get a better view, right? So that's what our guy is going to be doing. He's going to be standing on a rock outside the manger to get a better view. Now, I hope you can see just how much work it's actually taking. And this is just, like I said, I had painted this on here. Well, it's probably been about 10 minutes now, but if you remember, or you go back and you watch the videos, some of our pieces we let dry a couple of days, and they aren't near as hard to work it back. Okay, now we have that kind of worked back, and if you'll notice, I left it a little darker under his robe, but that's for more of a shadow effect. It's also a little darker. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but I'm really rubbing on this to get it to rub back. It's taking quite a bit of paint thinner to get it back too. Okay. Now, I want to make it a little lighter on the edge. I know there's a reason, and I will show you that reason. I left it a little darker around under his cloak to give it like a shadow effect. That's what we're working on here. It's a shadow effect. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna need new gloves now. The darker colors will wreck your gloves. But now you see why I use gloves instead of my hands. Just my bare hands, because it would just be an awful mess. But anyway. Some got through my gloves. I don't know if you can see it there on my fingers or not, but anyway, let me get my gloves on here and I will show you what the bottom of the piece looks like thus far. Now, we're not finished with this bottom piece by any means, but this is what we have on the bottom so far. You can see it's a little darker underneath the cape to give it kind of a shadow effect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a color called Burnt Umber. It's this color. And I'm not going to use a lot of it. I don't need a lot of it. And I'm going to take a more flared brush like this, not quite so stiff. And I'm going to thin it out fairly well with the paint thinner so that we get a consistency like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lightly brush it against the grain on my piece this way. Now, like I said, it takes very little of this. Not much at all. And I'm going to put it around through the rock. But you don't want to overpower your piece. Remember that. You don't want to overpower your piece. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a paper towel and I'm just going to wipe it back. Now when I do that, instead of being so stark gray, that's going to soften this piece a bit on the bottom and give it more of a rock effect. So I hope you can see the difference in the rock now. It has a less harsh appearance, less solid rock, slight, and has a more maybe laid in the dirt kind of view. It also differentiates it from his sandals. So that's what you're going to do to get that color variation like that. I hope that helps in your blending. I hope it shows you a little bit better how to do that. And so keep being creative, keep being yourselves, and I will see you next time on Create with Ann. Thanks, guys.